Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, May 21st. I'm Gary Stevens. It is the third Friday of the month, and this segment we normally call Clerk's Corner. With Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds, noted hockey aficionado Bob Genetski on the other side of our Zoom connection from his offices in Allegan. Bob, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary. It's great to be back on Talk of the Town.
Yeah,
it would be better if the Red Wings were in the playoffs, though.
Well, it would be nice. And of course, we like to talk a little hockey with a man that still plays a little bit. Yes, he still wears the H of Hartford Whalers. And, of course, we've talked about this before. I've played a clip of it as well. Gordie Howe's last goal was in the playoffs, an 8-4 loss by Hartford in Montreal against the Canadiens. Danny Gallivan with the call, and his color commentator that day, Mickey Redmond.
No way. I didn't know that. Holy cow. Mickey that is fantastic.
Redmond. And the form gave Gordie a standing O, but, of course, it was an 8-4 game. So.
Yeah, wow. Didn't cost them anything then.
Did not. I do want to talk a couple of hockey notes with you, and then we'll talk a little bit about your day job, of course, being the Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds. Surprised that Jeff Blashill got an extension from Steve Yzerman?
I was not. First of all, I think Blashill's done well wherever he's gone, and to blame the Red Wings' fortunes on the coach at this point would be a real problem. They finished 17, 48, and 10 on the season, seventh in that division. They actually did better than I thought they were going to do talent-wise. You look at a negative 44 as far as a team plus minus, and you can't blame that on the coach. That's a talent issue. We know that coming into this draft for 2021, they've got 11 picks in the first 5 rounds. That's pretty good. That's a good start to rebuilding. I think you get rid of a good coach like Blashill when you've got too much talent and they're not performing. What did you think?
Some say Blashill's good for a building program, but sometimes the creative players aren't being allowed to be creative, and they point to Anthony Ciu as the biggest example of that. Whether or not it's, again, if they were closer, maybe a change. Could Jack Eichel look good in a Red Wing jersey? I know he wants out of Buffalo.
Yeah, he would.
But whether or not the Wings are willing to pay the price. And Eichel, I don't know whether or not he wants to go through a few more years of rebuilding, although Detroit looks to be a little bit further along in their rebuilding than
Buffalo's one of the few teams. Buffalo's one of the few teams that finished with fewer points than the Red Wings. And if I'm him at his age, I want to take a run. That they all want that chance.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Of course, surprise in the NHL was last night's win by Montreal over Toronto. So that's a big surprise there. Toronto
is smitten, Gary. They have the toughest time. They have a great habit of over-promising and under-delivering, and as Red Wings fans, we can feel bad for their fans.
Yeah, but let Toronto have their problems. We'll move on, and let's talk about some serious stuff involving the Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds office. I don't know how much you are following what is going on in Lansing in the sense that, and I'm going to quote from MERS News on this, with the state Senate's 39 proposed election reform bills dominating public attention, the House Elections and Ethics Committee has quietly been moving out numerous pieces of legislation that's at least loosely considered a reaction to the 2020 election. At least 26 election reform bills have been proposed now so far this year, and almost a dozen have already received affirmative votes and been sent on to the Senate. I don't know how closely you are following this, whether or not you are or not, but election reform certainly is on the mind of state lawmakers, so you, of course, being a former state lawmaker in the House for 3 full terms.
I have been following it. I appreciate their efforts. I got to tell you, Gary, honest to goodness, since November, I get at least 2 to 3 calls a week from Allegan County residents wanting to know what we are doing to make elections more secure and to ensure that their votes count and are not diluted by people potentially voting fraudulently. So I assume that your legislators in Lansing are getting the same calls, because when people call me, I tell them to call Lansing because I don't have any power to change the laws as they are. I think some of the bills have tremendous merit. Some of the bills might be a little more reactionary than others, but I think if these lawmakers are getting the same phone calls that I'm doing and not doing anything, then they're going to open themselves up to an awful lot more criticism than exists right now. I have tremendous faith in elections in Allegan County. As you're aware, we've had some recounts that have finished, if not right on the nose, really close to the nose, and we feel good about the hand recount matching up that way. However, I can't speak for other counties in the state. And if somebody calls my office and complains or has a worry, I invite them to one of the recounts or one of the audits, the post-election audits that we county clerks do, in which we do a hand count of the ballots right there. But I can't speak for Detroit, and I can't speak for what goes on in other communities. So I think we all need to play by the same rules. And I think some of these bills are an effort to ensure that that goes on.
If you got a question for Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds Bob Genetski, he'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. How closely are you following the Dominion litigation efforts against some media outlets, because they're saying they're being defamed because of their reporting of claims that Dominion systems were, I'm going to put it nicely, were questionable in the 2020 election. Of course, Allegan County does use Dominion, and that had no problem on your end.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the question, because it is one of the most asked questions of me when anyone asks me about Allegan County election results. What machines do you use? We've been very open. We use Dominion voting systems, and the machines that we have, we feel really good about them. The ones that seem to be causing a lot of the issues and concerns are the high-speed tabulators, whereby one person can stand by a screen and adjudicate a ballot, meaning if there's a question on the ballot, one person can press a yes or no or a Biden or Trump or whatever. We don't have or own any of the high-speed tabulators in Allegan County. We don't have the money for them, and we didn't have much interest in them when we saw all the training and the extras that we need to go with them. In following what Dominion Voting Systems has been doing, suing or potentially litigating some of the media, I personally wish, as one who owns the machines and wants people to believe in them, I would feel much better if the company were to just, when accused of something, open up their books or open up their own auditing system and say, no, here's the case. But when you sue back, that always puts a bad taste in their mouth and makes them a little more suspicious.
616-395-1450 if you have a question for Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds Bob Genetski. And just to clarify for me and maybe for some of our listeners, some of the problems in some of the elections have been because there is no backup system. I know in Ottawa County, paper ballots. I have to, color out a little box, put it in. There's a paper ballot. You can always check the paper ballots with the electronic tabulating. I assume it's the same in Allegan County as well.
That'll be statewide. It's state law in Michigan, and it's a good thing. It's a good law, and we really want it statewide. We have to have a paper ballot backup system, and it's if you look at our board of canvassers, Gary, and they are I want to call them nitpicky. There's a better word than they are precise and they are exact. And when in doubt, they will go to a physical hand count of the ballots. And that's what we want. That's what, mom and dad and grandpa are used to, whether they vote in person or at home around the kitchen table, they have touched and felt and filled in the ovals on that paper ballot. And when you see people physically going through the stacks and counting the yes, no's or the candidates, you should feel comfortable that that is being done in a positive manner that you can depend on.
How long does the office hold on to paper ballots? How many, is it months, years? What's the usual criteria?
That's a really good question, and I appreciate you asking that too. A lot of these questions, when asked and people find out, they feel a lot better about the system in general. Your local clerks, by law, have to hold on to those ballots from federal elections for a retention cycle of 22 months. 22 months, those ballots are held under lock and key in a vault locked with sealed ballot bags. And so that's a pretty decent amount of time for any post-election litigation to occur and be cycled through. And 22 months is a very good retention cycle.
The reason why I say is that yes, you want to hold on to the paper ballots for a good time in case somebody has a question. But like anything else, you don't want to have you have to build 5 buildings because you got to hold election results from 1960. No, I don't think that's going to be the case there, Bob.
Well, Gary, we do have several vaults here down at the courthouse, and I'm glad to take you through them sometimes, with the original court cases from the 1850s and 1860s all in them. And by law, we have to keep and house them forever and ever and ever. No, we're very thankful that our local clerks don't have to build the extra buildings to house the ballots. I think the 22-month federal retention cycle is a good one.
If you got a question for Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds Bob Genetski, he'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450. Real quick before I take a break, do you have any new news on the veteran situation? I know that your office has been dealing with that.
We are offering those veterans ID cards. Finally, I know it took a long time and we teased the rollouts and had to deal with COVID, and we didn't want to necessarily bring a lot of seniors into the building during the COVID scare. We are now offering the veterans ID cards out of our Vital Records office at 113 Chestnut Street in Allegan. All a veteran needs to do is either have his or her DD-214 on file with us or bring down the original with a state ID, and we can have them in and out in about 20 minutes. They've been real hits from the moment we announced that on your show and in the papers. A lot of our veterans have come down to get those cards, and they are beaming when they leave. I get to take my picture with some of them and thank them for their service. And when they go out the door, they get to use those on a lot of discounts and benefits in the area and nationwide.
We've been spotlighting today our friend Ed Verskure. He passed away last week at the age of 76, Bob, and we will have, there will be his memorial service tomorrow from 2 until 4 at the Mulder Chapel. You've had a chance to interact with Ed for a number of years during his second stint here with WHTC. Your thoughts about Eddie as, we say goodbye to him tomorrow?
He was just a perfect, wonderful gentleman throughout the entire time. I got to interact with him on Talk of the Town. He, as radio host, you get caught in some awkward situations. He did not like when people called in and were critical of the guest on the show, which is part of having a show with public figures sometimes. But you could see him wince or sometimes kind of hustle a rude caller off the line, which was very gentlemanly of him. But I let him know. I said, and I got to answer that question. That person asked it, and that's part of the show too. But just he wanted to be just as kind and polite as he could to everybody, and didn't necessarily like conflict. Loved his old stories. I remember being a very, very young child, and the old radio station in Saugatuck that was down there. I'd completely forgotten it until he told me that he used to play the oldies show on that. And then whenever he would host Talk of the Town, when people would call in with questions about birth records or passports or such, he always had some great personal stories that he had no problem sharing. He could be very self-deprecating and laugh at himself real easily. He's just, as I said, a perfect gentleman and a very humble man. And we know he is up there in heaven enjoying himself with the oldies and some of the greats. And loved his interview with Ernie Harwell and then again with Bill Sickle, one of the giants from along the lakeshore, and I think Eddie is too.
We will miss Ed Verskure, and we honor him today. We'll play another couple of excerpts from Ed after the 11 o'clock news here on WHTC. If you got a question for Allegan County Clerk and Register of Deeds, Bob Genetski, he'll be happy to answer it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Let's talk about Register of Deeds, and we've discussed this a little bit before with you and with Justin Roebuck of Ottawa County, dealing with bad people who want to take the widow's land. The old Western line,
Yeah.
hey, those rustlers are trying to get the widow's land. But they're doing it in these time of days because they are just doing it electronically, and you're trying to make sure that people are aware of the situation.
Yep, that's really important. As you're aware, Gary, anyone can record anything at the Register of Deeds, provided that it meets the print and type specifications of the state. Recording something in the Register of Deeds office does not make it legal, but it makes it public. So I would encourage everybody in the audience who's in Allegan County to go online to allegancounty.org and then go to the Register of Deeds office and search on our online database and search any documents or mortgage docs or deeds that are in their name, and make sure that there's no one putting anything on top of those documents, any easements, or trying to put a lien that doesn't belong there, or potentially trying to steal documents or steal the widow's land, as you say. We are working very quickly in an effort would love to get it done by the end of this summer, whereby people can sign up for a service through our office, whereby they would receive an email where whenever anyone records anything relative to their name or their property in Allegan County. We're working with our vendor right now. I know that Ottawa County already has theirs up and running, which is great. And it's since we got the veterans IDs out there, it's now the #1 service that we hope to get in place and that we are getting asked questions about.
One final thing, and I believe, and I'm trying to remember our conversation with Allegan County Board Chairman Jim Story, along with former Board Chairman Dean Cappinga. County is looking into updating and revising its website. Obviously, you're going to have to be involved with that.
You know, the county website is a little archaic, and I'm sure we're getting a great price on it. But if you look at other counties around us, people are starting to demand an awful lot more. And they should. With people doing more and more business online, I'm excited to hear that Allegan County is going to be looking at some updates. It's time, definitely time. And just from election night, you know, we've done some improvements since I've gotten here, and I'm very proud of that. But it's time that we join the rest of the 21st century and offer more services online in a format that people are used to navigating, in one that is easily recognizable and even guide you around much easier.
Bob Genetski, as always, thank you very much for joining us on Clerk's Corner, and we'll talk again next month.
Looking forward to it. It's always great to be back on Talk of the Town.
Thank you very much, Bob Genetski, on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.